Morning, Econ students. Here we are, final countdown, getting ready for the AP test on Thursday. You don't have a new FRQ today. All I want to do is go over review FRQ number 12 and the concepts that I have to do. You should take a look at the video I posted from the College Board. Does a good job reviewing balance sheets and things like that. And as I always say, if there are other concepts you want me to cover or anything you're confused about, shoot me an email, send me a message on Teams. That's what I'm here for. Good luck with your prep. So, FRQ number 12 from last Friday. Assume the economy of our land is currently operating above full employment. Okay, so when we say above full employment, it's kind of confusing. Our natural rate of unemployment, let's say, is 5%. If we're above that, it actually means our actual rate is less than the natural rate. So, it seems like many months ago now, with the economy the way it is right now, but there was some concern from the Fed and other institutions that the fact that the unemployment rate was below 4%, that maybe we were nearing what would be called an inflationary gap, a period of demand pull inflation. Like I said, it seems like a long time ago. Hopefully we can get back to that at some point soon. But when we're talking about above full employment, we mean a graph that looks something like this. Okay, so you have long run aggregate supply here, which is our full employment, and we are actually operating to the right. We are operating above full employment in this case. This is our inflationary gap. We're somehow producing more than potential output. Okay, maybe because unemployment is 3% or 2%, somewhere in that range, we're actually producing beyond full employment. We can do this in the short run. In the short run, it's capable of doing this, just like in the short run you're capable of pulling an all-nighter, maybe 2 all-nighters in a row to get ready for an AP test, or write an English paper, or do a physics project, things like that. We can do a lot of things in the short run that we can't continue in long run. You can't pull 5 all-nighters in a row because eventually the lack of sleep drives you insane. Okay, so this is where we get to the next part of the question. Assume the central bank and the government do not take any policy actions to close the output gap. So in this case, we're going to let the economy fix itself. We're not going to do anything. So how does the economy adjust? Well, one of the issues here is that in going from y sub f to y1, we're going to have inflation. Price level is going to go up. Okay, so as we're in this direction, the price level rises. Price level rising in the short run, maybe nominal wages might go up, but in the long run, what ends up happening is real wages fall and input prices, there's stress on input prices, which cause input prices and wages to eventually go up. Okay, we want to keep pay. If you're a business who sells oil or corn or a major input, you want those prices to go up as well to keep pace with inflation. If you're a worker and you notice the inflation is eroding your real wages, well, you want more. You want to adjust for inflation. You want cost of living adjustments. So, in the long run, aggregate supply decreases. Short run aggregate supply decreases. So, aggregate supply shifts to the left. Okay, so you have a situation where short run aggregate supply decreases. And in doing so, the price level goes up to PL2. That's your answer for part B. Part C, alternatively, suppose the government wants to close the output gap using fiscal policy. So, imagine we erase this graph here and we're still at that point there. Okay, so when we have demand pull inflation, how do we get rid of it? Well, you get rid of demand pull inflation using contractionary fiscal policy. And try to keep in mind that they want you on the AP test to use specific examples. So don't just write contractionary fiscal policy. You could say raise personal income taxes or reduce transfer payments, reduce government spending. Any of those things are contractionary because those things would lower aggregate demand. So we'll just draw that graph here. If we use contractionary fiscal policy, aggregate demand shifts to the left. And we have new equilibrium there. So that's if the government uses contractionary fiscal policy. How will this affect the unemployment rate? Well, contractionary fiscal policy slows the economy down. This would increase the unemployment rate. Okay, if we're reducing output because we're going from y sub 1 to y sub f, If we're reducing output, we don't need as many workers if we're reducing real GDP. Kind of like what we're doing right now. We're in a situation, it's not contractionary fiscal policy, but aggregate demand is going down due to a lack of consumer spending and investment spending. Unemployment rate goes up. You have to remember that inverse relationship between the two. Part 3, how would this affect the natural rate? Well, the natural rate only changes, remember, if Larousse changes. A long-run aggregate supply did not move at all. Natural rate, therefore, would not change. The natural rate only changes when we're talking about economic growth or permanent economic decline. Okay, hopefully that's not a situation we're dealing with these days. But yeah, if Larousse moves, then we're dealing with the natural rate. So things like technology, resources, long-run low interest rates, those sorts of things. But nothing with fiscal policy would affect that yet. In closing the output gap, and that's why I kind of left the curves up for you, would the automatic adjustment in Part B price level be higher, lower, or the same compared to the price level in Part C? Well, when we have the automatic adjustment, the price level, when short-run aggregate supply decreased, price level ended up there. When we had fiscal policy change things, contractionary fiscal policy, the price level ended up down there. So the price level with the automatic adjustment, higher prices in the long run would be the case. So Part B price level would be higher. What would happen to real interest rates? Well, once again, when we're talking about in this case, we're talking about a lack of government borrowing because, remember, real interest rates, we're always looking at the loanable funds market. So there's our loanable funds market, like so. Real interest rates on the vertical axis, quantity of loanable funds, horizontal. Here's our equilibrium point. Now, most of the questions you've had so far on these FRQs have had to do with the government or businesses or consumers borrowing more money. In a case where we're using contractionary fiscal policy, the government is actually going to be borrowing less money, okay? Because the government, in this case, we're using contractionary fiscal policy, is spending less or taking in more tax revenue, so it doesn't have to borrow as much money. So demand for loanable funds, due to a decrease in government borrowing, would decrease. So demand for loanable funds would decrease, and demand for loanable funds decreases. Real interest rates go from I1 to I2. Real interest rates would decrease as well. And this leads to a final question, okay, hopefully one that we've been over this a lot so far. What happens to economic growth? Well, if interest rates go down, or in the short run, interest rates going down affect aggregate demand. Businesses will buy more equipment, more machinery, more capital goods, things like that. In the long run, when you have more equipment, more machinery, more capital goods, and things like that, that will affect long-run aggregate supply. So think short-run if impact, interest rates go down, investment goes up, aggregate demand would increase. In the long run, interest rates go down, investment goes up, and that investment will lead to more production, which will mean long-run aggregate supply would shift to the right. Okay, same as a PPC would shift outward because you'd have more productive capacity. Okay, so that's it for FRQ number 12. I might put a couple more FRQs out there tomorrow, just for review's sake. But I said before, one thing you should do, watch the College Board videos on this. It's good stuff, especially help you review balance sheets and things like that. Otherwise, good luck as you continue preparing, and I'll see you again tomorrow.